This is a critical insight into the structure of legal reallocation. The quiet transformation of laws created to repair specific harm done to Black people into broad race-neutral frameworks that benefit everyone else more. The pattern is consistent. Policies born out of Black struggle are eventually diluted, expanded to include other groups, and ultimately leave Black Americans, the original intended beneficiaries, with the least access, protection, or power. Take Dred Scott versus Sanford, 1857, for example. This was not just a case about one man's freedom. It was a direct challenge to whether Black people could be recognized as citizens under U.S. law. Dred Scott, a Black man who had lived in free territories, sought legal acknowledgement of his freedom and personhood. The Supreme Court ruled instead that Black people had no rights, which the white man was bound to respect. The decision went further, declaring that no Black person, yet free or enslaved, could claim U.S. citizenship or sue in federal court. This ruling cemented a legal doctrine that placed Blackness outside the boundaries of constitutional protection. It institutionalized anti-Black exclusion at the highest level of American law, laying the groundwork for a system that still struggles and often refuses to treat Black people as rightful claimants to full citizenship and redress. The legacy of that exclusion echoes through every major law and policy intended to offer repair. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was designed to end racial segregation and dismantle anti-Black Jim Crow laws. But over time, it was expanded to include gender, religion, and national origin. Today, white women are among the largest statistical beneficiaries of affirmative action programs rooted in this very act. What was once a tool for racial justice has become a catch-all for general inclusion, and the original focus, repairing harm done to Black people, has been minimized in both discourse and enforcement. Similarly, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was passed to combat the racial disenfranchisement of Black voters, especially in the Deep South. But its protections were gradually extended to include language minorities and non-Black ethnic groups. In 2013, the Supreme Court gutted one of its key provisions: federal oversight of states with histories of racist voting laws through Shelby v. Holder. The result? Black Southern communities were left vulnerable again, even as the law continues to serve broader populations. Affirmative action policies, rooted in executive orders and administrative decisions, were initially developed to create access for Black Americans locked out of education and employment for centuries. These policies were later broadened to include women, Latinos, Asians, and immigrants. In 2023, the Supreme Court struck down race-conscious admissions in Students for Fair Admissions First in Harvard, effectively ending affirmative action as we knew it. The aftermath saw Black enrollment in elite institutions drop significantly, while groups never enslaved or segregated continue to benefit. The Fair Housing Act of 1968 was crafted to stop discrimination against Black families in the wake of redlining. Yet it was expanded to protect national origin, gender, religion, and disability status. Enforcement, however, remained weak. Today, Black families are still disproportionately denied mortgages and live in disinvested neighborhoods, even as the language of the law suggests universal protection. Even programs designed to support Black entrepreneurship, like those under the Small Business Administration, have been co-opted. Originally intended to provide capital and contracts to Black-owned businesses in underserved communities, these initiatives were reframed under minority or disadvantaged categories. That opened the door for non-Black immigrants, white women, and others to qualify. The result? The vast majority of SBA funds today do not go to Black businesses, even though they continue to face the deepest historical disadvantages. The GI Bill, 1944, offers another painful example. Designed to provide education, housing, and job support to World War II veterans, it was administered by segregated institutions. Though race neutral on paper, Black veterans were systematically denied access to its benefits, excluded from home loans, college programs, and high-paying jobs. The GI Bill helped create the white middle class, while black veterans were left behind, fueling the racial wealth gap that persists today. In Brown vs. Board of Education, 1954, the Supreme Court ruled to end school segregation for black children. Yet integration came at a devastating cost. Black teachers were fired, black schools were closed, and buzzing policies were implemented in ways that harmed rather than helped black students. White flight followed, and the promise of equal education faded. Today, black children still attend segregated, underfunded schools, not by law, but by legacy. Even economic initiatives like minority supplier development programs, meant to increase black participation in corporate and government contracting, have been distorted. The term minority was stretched to include any non-white group, and in some cases even white people from disadvantaged backgrounds. Today, Asian and Latino-owned firms, and occasionally white women, dominate these programs, while black business ownership remains disproportionately low. This is not coincidence, it is a predictable pattern. Reparative measures created for black people are rebranded as universal protections, diluted through the language of diversity or inclusion, and ultimately benefit those with more systemic access. We move from targeted repair to a broad minority frame to a diluted benefit. The laws remain on paper, but the power, the justice, gets redistributed. And the people who needed it most are once again left with the least.
Hit subscribe, turn on the bell. This ain't content, it's clarity. Kojo Ma'ati breaks the spell of empire with every post, every line, every truth. History, power, spirit, all decoded. Don't just watch, wake up. Follow Kojo Ma'ati across all platforms. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, wherever truth still echoes.